Hello everyone, Dom Sacco here, back with another stream. This is a first of a series of streams from us at the British Esports Association. Well, this is the first one for me anyway, I should say. Esports 101, where we cover different topics, try and help you, give you some advice, some information on certain areas so you can learn more about it. And today, it's a topic that's close to my heart and my interests and my background. It's journalism, specifically esports journalism, of course. And we're going to not just be talking about the usual how to get into journalism kind of stuff, but podcasts, because everyone seems to have a podcast these days. So, how can you set yourself apart? Maybe you're thinking of setting up a podcast in a particular niche or a particular game. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It looks like we've got homepage promotion as well on this stream, so that's great. So if you're coming in from the Twitch homepage, welcome. We're the British Esports Association. We're set up to promote, support grassroots esports. We do tournaments in schools and colleges, and we have a BTEC qualification as well starting in the next few months. So we do other bits and pieces as well. Go and check out our website if you want for more information. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in our special guest today. And it is Mr. Adam Fitch from Esports Insider, the esteemed publication. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
That's the first time anyone's ever called me special, so I really appreciate that.
In a good way.
Of course, yeah. Yes, it's the first time someone's ever called me special in a good way. No, thank you very much for having me. It's honestly, I like to get involved with the association whenever I can. So, being invited on this is great, and I appreciate getting to sit down and have a chat with you, Dom.
100%. And you're a game advisor for us as well, right, Adam? PUBG?
PUBG, yeah. I mean, it's been a turbulent time for PUBG esports, I will say. So yeah, there's little bits that go on in the UK, and not too much. Hopefully that changes in the future, and I can be more involved in that sense.
100%. Okay, well, good that we've both got our trucker caps on today, Adam. I know you like your dad caps. I like them as well. I am a dad. Yeah, I'm on brand. I feel a bit like, I don't know if anyone's watching Arsenal Fan TV. There's a guy called Ty who has Arsenal cap, Arsenal gloves, Arsenal everything for his interview. I feel a bit like that. I'm kitted out. I've got my British Esports shirt on and my cap. But yeah, thanks again for joining us, Adam. Maybe tell the viewers a bit about yourself to start with. You're editor of Esports Insider, a trade publication, right, and events organizer.
Yeah, so Esports Insider, in my mind, is the leading esports business publication. So we cover the partnerships, investments, all the business side of things on esports, really. And of course, we do like the biggest and best conferences, I'm going to say as well, because you've got to promote yourself, right? We've actually got one going on right now. We're on the third day of 5 of ESI Digital Summer. Each day we cover a different region, and we've got like experts, like subject matter leaders, thought leaders, whatever you want to call them. We've got all of those from their specific regions each day at the moment. So I believe we're on Europe at the moment, which is quite apt considering British Esports Association Europe. But yeah, so we do the event side as well. We've also got a print magazine, the Esports Journal. We've got a corporate league, work from home league, a network of podcasts. We've got a media arm. Like we do a lot, but I'm certainly most involved on like the media and editorial side as the editor. So I'm kind of like the I keep everything going, and I try and be the glue that keeps everything together on the content side, basically.
Yeah, and on that, we had a good chat before the stream started. My background in trade journalism, it's been quite similar to yours, and then I hopped over to working for British Esports in a more sort of PR and content role. And I do still run my site in my spare time, Esports News UK, which is mainly, UK League of Legends focused. But as an editor, this doesn't get talked about a lot, but we were saying this beforehand, you don't actually get as much time to do solid journalism because you're relying on your team. You have to edit what your team are doing. So how do you balance that? If you talk for a bit about that, Adam, I'm just going to grab that journal because I've got a copy of it. I can show the stream.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, in like an industry that's growing, like esports, but is still not quite as fruitful as, say, like sports, there's a lot of demand, and you have to wear many hats. So yeah, as well as being the editor of the website, I try and muck in and write where I can as well. And also I host and produce, edit, publish, distribute 3 podcasts on a weekly basis for Esports Insider. So I'm stretched thin, and yeah, it's just what I didn't realize when jumping from a journalist at Esports Insider, where I was breaking stories and covering the news quicker than anyone else. And going into the editor position, I thought, oh, that's fine. Everyone's going to have the exact same approach and kind of skill level as myself. I'm not saying I'm the best or anything by any means. I'm just saying people are at varying levels, right? And in terms of like the time it takes to write an article and such, like I never anticipated how different that would be, and also different journalists have their own kind of where they excel and their own beats. So like trying to get the right people on the right story that's really going to interest them or make them question it because they know it better than anyone else, and they can see something's not quite right or something's not explained well. That's really important. So actually like getting to know the writers, their tendencies, their interests, their strengths and weaknesses is really important, and it's really a managerial role. And I didn't think about that too much. I was just kind of thought, oh, it's just reading through content and making sure it sounds good and reads good and then getting it out there. There's a lot more to it. And yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, but it's the kind of balance where it's not perfect. You have to put energy in all the time to make sure you're kind of on top of everything as much as you can be.
It's tough, 100%. I used to say to some of my old colleagues at Intent Media back in the day, some of which are at gamesindustry.biz now, shout out to Chris and James and some of those folks, but we sort of tended to agree with some of us that deputy editor is one of the best roles you can have in journalism, because you still have time to do big features and big interviews and pieces, but you don't have the full responsibility that an editor has. And if someone makes a mistake in an article and you miss it, the responsibility is on you, right? So that's tough. So deputy editor, that's my dream role. I was only a deputy editor for 1 year before I moved up to editor, but I missed that role.
Well, if you ever want to be a freelance deputy editor for me, then I'd welcome the help and the extra pair of hands.
Oh, it's persuading me, you know. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to work with some of the top journalists in the UK in the future, but you know, I'm happy at British Esports as well. So
of course, yeah, I'm definitely not trying to pry you away. That's why I said freelance and not full time. I would never try and do that. Ever.
I wish I had time to do freelance stuff. I really do. On this, Adam, you previously said about esports tips. You've given us a great video at British Esports on esports tips, and you mentioned about networking and why that's really good. So I'll just say to people watching, we'll talk a bit about journalism and then we'll jump into podcasts and stuff after. Sure. But if you have any questions in the chat, please ask them and I'll try to save them as we go. Someone did ask, where's your British Esports cap, Adam? That's not me saying that, by the way.
It's over there, actually. I didn't think about it. I was kind of in a rush getting ready because I was just editing an article about 2 minutes before I joined our call. So I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be on that front. But rest assured, there's a picture of me with it, and it is just over there. I'm good for my word. Good.
But you've got a nice colour scheme going on, Adam, with your microphone, your cap. You know, it's a nice colour scheme.
I'm not saying it's all on purpose, but I'm not saying it's an accident either. Maybe. I'm just I put it out earlier. I'm the best dressed in the UK in esports. No, like everything's matching. Like you can't even see the monitors, all of it. It's nothing's an accident.
Yeah, well, I can't counter that. I'm certainly not best dressed. But you mentioned there's something I wanted to bring up first: networking and the importance of networking, Adam. Because like you've said before, and rightly so, like every writer's different. You find your own beat, and by beat, if anyone doesn't understand that in the chat, it's a sort of historically used term in journalism that if you work for I don't know, the Billericay, whatever the Billericay newspaper is, your beat will be Billericay, and that area you will be required to break the stories in that area, right? And now with the internet, you can have any beat in anything. You know, mine has historically been UK League of Legends. Adam, you're in trade, esports industry news, right?
It's a very big niche. That's the thing. Like, there's so much that goes on the business side of esports, and there's obviously loads of major regions. Like, it's hardly a beat. It's considered a beat when in comparison to all the different titles and stuff within the industry. But there's not many beat writers in esports anyway. I think League of Legends, because it's got a big enough ecosystem. Counter-Strike, and then apart from that, it's almost like a free-for-all, and you have to be like a jack of all trades, be willing to write about any title, any tournament at any moment. That was certainly how I got started anyway. Just like having to consume it all and know how to write about it all.
Yeah.
And sounding like you know what you're on about, at least.
You learn by doing, and I've had that.
Of course.
Inexperienced writers coming through. I have volunteer writers at Esports News UK, some of which I'm able to pay for bigger things now and then, or freelance bits. And some of them have been a bit nervous at the start. Oh, I can't write about Rocket League because I don't know the game that well. Well, you don't really need to know. I might get hounded by some people saying this, but as long as you've got the facts, like the basic facts, how the game works, the basics. You don't need to play the game at a grandmaster or grand champion level or whatever it is. Look at sports writers. People who write for the Times and newspapers and people who do commentary. Not all of them are former professional players. Some of them can't kick a ball very well at all. So
exactly.
As long as you've got it's about, I think, learning by doing journalism, isn't it? And if you just set up a blog or a podcast and you do it, you will improve with time, and
100%. I'd say when people ask me how to start, I always give two things: networking, as we mentioned, I assume we'll go into soon, and just putting in the reps, doing the work, figuring things out, just by writing, just sitting down. How to open up a WordPad or Notepad and get going, or on Reddit or Twitter or Medium, WordPress. There's so many options, and people seem to think that they're not options, but they're the best options available. You can literally self-publish your own work. It's really handy.
Yeah, and historically, or in the past, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Reddit. But I will say, if you're uncomfortable writing, for a site or even your own blog, put a post up on Reddit. Sometimes you get very creative and inventive posts on Reddit about things that have happened in a game or things that have happened in a particular esports scene. Go to town. It might be about a player that you think is underrated or unnoticed, and then you might get, you never know, a few hundred or 1,000 upvotes, and some people are agreeing with you, and then that gives you a bit of a motivation that, well, you are talking.
You are
knowledge.
Capable, yeah. It's just that's what, when people come to us for advice, so that's what they want. They want the encouragement, or the validation that they can start, or of course, go for it. You do have a valid voice, everyone does. Your opinion is valid, whether you think it is or not. Just learn to really portray that. I think that's the first step, is really refining how you're describing whatever you're feeling at that moment.
And if you get bad feedback, just take it on board.
Oh, that's better than good feedback a lot of the time. If I write something now, I'm more likely to pay attention to the negative comments or the feedback rather than the praise, so I can get better next time. And I guarantee they're not going to say that same negative thing the next time I publish an article.
And that's human nature as well. Unfortunately, we remember the negative more than the 100%. Positive. I have a couple of folders, I'm not ashamed to admit, of positive feedback and negative feedback. And if I'm feeling a bit wary about a particular article or something like that, I'll sometimes read those comments, and it will remind me what I've done wrong in the past or what I've done well. It's sometimes you put out a lot of articles and you won't get much of a response as well, and that can be harder, because then you think, is anyone reading this stuff? Well, actually, if you check Google Analytics, make sure you're checking that stuff. That will tell you if they are, and of course, 99% of the time they are. And sometimes no news is good news, or whatever. If people aren't moaning at you, but they're still liking your stuff on Twitter and things like that, then that's positive as well.
Sure.
I've done a lot of waffling already. We're 20 minutes in, because it's this. I'm passionate about journalism, and we were talking about networking, Adam. I think that's so important, right? Because you said before the stream that you've had a few stories and things you're working on, and those have come from networking. It's so important to reach out, say hi, but getting that balance right as well, because you will upset some people about some of the things you write about, but if you have a good relationship with them, that helps, getting quotes and things.
Yeah, I think it's important to have relationships with people anyway, in no matter the industry, whatever it may be, whatever job it may be as well. Of course, if you're a player, you want to be friends with all the coaches and all the GMs and stuff, right? You want to. It seems obvious, or at least friendly enough with them, or as a line of communication that can be used should be necessary. And I think it's vital in esports, right? Because connections are literally everything. If you need a source, a second source to verify a story, it helps if you've already done the legwork on connections, because if you just cold call someone or cold email someone, they're less likely, in my opinion, to play ball than if you already have spoken to them and found out a bit about them and they're aware of you and know the kind of person you are. So not only is it helpful in actually finding jobs, like if a job opening happens at ESI, then we may go around and ask the people we know are good writers that we wanted to take on but didn't have the capacity for until now. Yeah. Like that's a possibility. But also again, like if a publication is known for doing great work and someone wants a story out there but doesn't know how to go about it, they're likely to go to that publication. So I get a lot of people asking me whether I'll take a story on or just to take a look. And if I can't do it, then I'll pass it on to someone I think who can, or I'll explain why I can't. And I'll always be honest with people and try and keep a dialogue going wherever possible. And as you say, you're going to upset people, especially when you're writing stories if it's about them and they've done something negative. But if you've already spoken to them beforehand and they know you're a decent person, you're not doing it out of spite. You're doing it to serve the community, and it's not necessarily personal. It's we obviously is inherent bias in everything because we're humans, but we try to be objective as possible. We take ourselves out of ourselves to look an entire situation and just tell it how it is and how we know it to be through facts and such, right? So if people do get annoyed at that point, there's not much you can do as long as you know you've followed the right steps and you've already spoken to them so they know who you are. So I'd say networking is actually more important than being a really good writer when it comes to journalism.
And that's hard to do now with the lockdown, obviously, but things like ESI Digital Summer, which, it's coming to the end now. Thanks again for taking your time out during an event, one of your own events, Adam. That's, digital events like that, Zoom calls. I'm an advocate of picking up the phone. I know I'm a bit old school with that, or even Discord, just saying, look, can I chat on voice to you for 5 minutes? It's hard, but going to those networking events, and I'm not just saying this, but the ESI ones have been very good in the past, like the physical events, the digital ones. It's very good if you're starting out, or even if you're not starting out, it's good to say hi to old friends and colleagues and make those connections. And I'll give a quick example of where that helped me. The deep connections I've got in League of Legends and UK League of Legends. When I heard last year that LVP was stepping away from production partner for UKLC and things like that, I was actually in hospital. My wife was about to give birth. She was sleeping at the time, so I had time to kill. And I heard this rumour from someone, and then I just called a couple of people that I'm friends with, and they're like, yes, happened in Dom, but you didn't hear it from me. And then I broke the story from the hospital bed.
Legend.
But that doesn't happen every day. But having those connections meant I didn't have to do any digging. I just literally asked a few people that I trusted, and it is hard to get that deep trust, because I have done stories in the past that have turned out to be false rumours. And then, based on what a couple of people have said, maybe I don't trust them as much in the future with their information. Maybe there was some truth to it, but not enough to run an article on. It's a learning process, isn't it? Can I just say, whoever that is, Dom Sacco in the chat, that's not me. So maybe Elliot or someone, look, kindly change your name, but I think we'll have to ban whoever's using our actual name. So if a mod can just ban that person, maybe for a few days at least, or permanently ban, I think, because otherwise it's confusing for people. Thank you. If you want a message and be silly, just pick a different name. That's fine, and come back. I've been sitting here with this, Adam. I know you can't see me on Zoom, but on the stream, this is the Esports Journal that Adam was talking about. It's really cool that we've got an esports industry magazine. So
we've just released the 6th edition today digitally, and it'll be posted out soon as well. So if people are interested, then you can find that on our site.
Yeah, so that's Esports Insider. What is it? Is it
.com?
.com. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So that's some good stuff we've been talking about there. Networking. I think we mentioned this a bit beforehand. How you juggle your time as a journalist or editor, because it's really tough. You are required to do multiple things, do event stuff. It's not just chasing news all the time. It's other things, editing words. Thinking up a different headline, calling someone, or again a trusted source that is Sorry, this is bugging me here. Another Dom Sacco's joined. Just keep banning them. I'm going to turn off the notifications, guys. If you're following the streams, apologies, but I'm going to turn that off because it's interrupting us. Yeah, juggling your time, Adam. How do you do that? Because it's not easy, is it, as a journalist?
No, I've it's literally the most boring answer ever, but I've started just writing everything down and then prioritizing, or else I will just get lost. I literally got to a point where I was just doing a load of things and none of it particularly well. So I think this is like a boring, like operational, like productivity thing, but it's true. So like I use a program called Notion. I have every single day written out. I put all my tasks in there, and then I prioritize, and I just make sure I'm on top of everything that way. And if I don't get to something that day, then that means it was low priority versus the stuff that I did get done. And I've been learning to do this more, but like really delegate. Because I like to take things on myself, because it's not a lack of trust for other people. It's just like I like to make sure that it's done properly, which does kind of signal a lack of trust, but that's not the case.
No, I'm very similar. It's not a lack of trust. It's just because, like you've worked with words for so long and you do things in a certain way. That is a challenge. That is a challenge as an editor, isn't it? Because it's delegating and everything. And my role at British Esports is more than just articles, which is tricky. And yours is as well.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, it's like the Esports Journal. I've edited every single one of those pieces, and I think I wrote a couple as well. And as I say, with the podcasts that we do, I secure the guests, I record, I edit, I publish, I distribute. I'm one man band on that front. Like unveiling the curtain quickly to show you that is literally all me. So, and that's something I've taken on in addition to everything else, just so I can hopefully provide like another level of access to the people who are big players in the industry and stuff, So I don't think there's any magic trick behind it. It's definitely a lot going on, and yeah, delegating is one thing. Trusting other people, I guess, is a second part of that. Like the people I work with, I trust. So knowing when to let go of something and trust someone else to do it, and 9 times out of 10 they'll impress you with how well they've done. And just making a list and prioritizing is literally it. There's no super glamorous answer there, but there's certainly a lot going on. I do think that's partly because of esports. Like, to justify the cost of hiring you need to wear loads of different hats. I think that's where we're at the moment. That will change in the future, and it is to some degree in some places and some roles, but certainly from my perspective now, I think we've got a team of like 12 freelancers working across like media, our media client side stuff, and the news side, and the journal and events promo. Yeah. So like tying all that together, and also mucking in myself on every single one, because I'm like the gatekeeper for everything there. Like, it all has to go through me. So we've got 12 people doing work, and all 12 people's work has to go through me before we can even move forward. So it is a lot. But it's just a case of just making sure I stay on top of everything, writing it down, or else I'll be lost. Like, I wouldn't remember this stream if I didn't have it in my calendar and have it written down.
Yeah, calendar's so important. I almost took that literally then, Adam, when you said you've got to wear so many different hats.
Exactly, yeah. I'm just really living my truth.
What was that platform you mentioned, Adam? Motion, was it?
Notion, yeah.
Notion.
Notion. Yeah, it's a free program. I'm not sponsored by them, but if they want to sponsor me, they can reach out. I'll do some affiliate link type thing. But yeah, like I converted Sam Cook, the MD of ESI.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah, you have some good funny banter with Sam, don't you, in the team?
I just don't like him, and everyone just takes it as a joke.
All good. I think I've worked in teams in the past as well where that's been the case with what you've said. In terms of delegation, I've worked with people above me that they've found things hard to delegate. Again, not a trust thing, just it becomes a habit.
Go thing, isn't it?
It is. I think it's a journalist thing. It's a habit, and also in terms of like having that funny relationship with your boss as well. Like, I've seen Depheads and Eds have best of friends and then like annoying each other at the click of a finger, but you need to. It's because you might have a bad, reaction to a story, and then you might have something that's good. It's kind of a roller coaster role, isn't it? I find.
You could say that, and you can tell that if you follow me on Twitter for the past month. I've been all over the shop just trying to figure things out because I'm just so busy. I can't really think. So when I do get to thinking, I'm just all over the shop. But I'm working on that. And I'm one thing I've learned as well is like saying no to things. Obviously not like if your boss comes to you and says, "Oh, I need this doing," you don't just say no. But like so many little requests that just come throughout the day, which you think are not really a big deal, but like they take up 15, 20, 30 minutes of your time. Like, and if you do multiple of those, like many of those each day, that eats up so much time that you didn't actually realize
100%.
and it leaves you with less time to actually do what's needed. So I've started saying no to a lot of things, except for I would never say no to you, Dom, of course. That's why I'm here.
Thanks. Likewise. What was I going to say? Do you know what? That reminds me, when I was back in the office and you'd get the phone going all the time, you know, you had to learn to say no, or sometimes just make an excuse, you know. The amount of calls I'd have from PRs who are, you know, if people watching don't know what a PR is, it's, you know, they will call you up and try and in a way, not monetary way, but they'll try and convince you to run their story or interview their client. And, you know, their clients will pay the PR agency money, or if it's in-house PR, they want to get as much coverage, positive coverage as possible. And the amount of phone calls you get from them, there became a trend, I don't know when it was, 6-7 years ago, I noticed it, where you'd receive an email, you know, as a journalist, Adam, you probably receive so many press releases every day.
More than that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know, there was a trend where you'd get an email, and then like an hour or two later, you'd get that PR calling you up saying, "Hi, just wanted to check you've received my email. I mean, and would you like to run it?" Well, you know, those calls were pointless for me, because if I was interested, I'd just run it. I don't need to call you. You know, and you sometimes need to make excuses, won't you? And you know, sorry, I'm busy.
It's hard to say no to people who they want to give you the best story possible, right? But also, especially on like a kind of a niche website such as ESI, right? We only do the business side. I do not touch the influencer side by any means, or casual gaming. Competition out there may do different to that. But like, we've got esports in our name, so I make sure we stick with esports. And the amount of PRs I get that are way outside of that, I just can't justify spending the time to reply to every PR that doesn't suit us or doesn't fit us, saying, no, I can't do this, because they'll ask why. And then I feel obliged to answer them because I've already answered them once. So then I have to be like, oh, well, it doesn't really fit in. And then they point to another story that we've done that they think it gets so mad. So I try my best to reply to where I can, but I don't feel bad if I can't, because I know they're going to keep coming back because they want us to publish their stories.
Yeah, no, it is a challenge, isn't it? It is a big challenge, I think, with the role.
I did not expect it. I did not anticipate this level of challenge. I happily admit that before taking on the role just over a year ago.
100%. Right, so we're about halfway through, Adam. So I think now's probably a good time to transition into podcasts. Is there anything else about journalism you want to talk about before we talk about, you know, digital podcasts?
I would just say I think esports needs all the good journalists it can get. So if there's anybody who's interested in it or has a knack in it, is already getting going but not quite at a level they'd like, then reach out to me on Twitter, email me, whatever it may be, and I will do my best to help, because I think there's a shortage, especially in the UK, in my opinion. There are some good ones, but like there could always be more. So I'm more than happy to help out people where I can, whether it's with connections or like looking for a piece when I have the time. I'm more than happy to help people in the name of journalism, especially as I kind of creep out the back door of it a little bit and like the editor front, you know. I'm not always on the front line just trying to report things now.
100%. All right, cool. So Adam, you've done some good podcasts. You've done quite a few, haven't you, over the past, I don't know, year or so. I've not really gone into that. I used to do like a weekly thing back in the day, like maybe like 3 years ago, but I just had to stop it due to lack of time, because it was something I did in my spare time. So what would you say makes a good podcast, Adam?
Yeah, so I learned this from doing, because probably the first, so I launched like a self-named one. It was the Adam Fitch podcast, because I'm very inventive. And the first probably 5, 6, maybe 10 of those on a weekly basis were very interviewy. And that's fine. Like that can work. But the most popular podcasts, if you look like the Joe Rogan podcast, for example, or Joe Budden podcast, like they're huge, commanding like millions of dollars for companies wanting to host and produce those shows. They're conversations, and that requires typically good chemistry. But like Joe Rogan has a different guest on every time, but he establishes some chemistry, or it seems like they're not just complete strangers, even if they don't agree on things. Like there's some middle ground there of like respect, right? And I think cultivating a conversation, and if you're the host, like maybe don't see yourself as a host as much as just one half. If you're doing a one-on-one podcast or such, like one half of a conversation, that's something I've been trying to do with the ESI network. So Focus, Digest, and Insight, 3 podcasts I'm doing at Esports Insider now. Whereas I do want to make sure that we touch on certain topics while I'm doing those podcasts. So at certain times I do have to treat it like an interview, and I just try and frame it a bit differently. Like the way I lead into a question will seem less straightforward and blunt, or like a question. It'll more so seem like a new topic of conversation we're going on. And I think that's the crux of it. It's just it feeling like you're part of that conversation as a listener is one of the most compelling parts, at least from my experience.
100%. I think that's what we're doing now, right? I'm sort of having a conversation with you. I've got a list of discussion points, but I probably won't be able to get through all of them because we'll, cover stuff off naturally. And for me, it ties into having that niche again, doesn't it, Adam? I know Joe Rogan's an exception. He can just interview any celebrity, but even then he goes for sort of quirky interviewees like Dan Aykroyd, the old actor from Ghostbusters, talking about aliens and things like that. But having a niche or at least a topic, a focused topic area, that helps, right? I know it sounds obvious.
Yeah, it is obvious, but like people also don't abide by it all the time. So I mean, I don't know how obvious it really is. Yeah, I mean, I think what it is people need to know why they should return to you. Like they need to know what to expect from you to some degree. So if you do go on Joe Rogan podcast, you're going to get some wild talk. If you go on the Adam Fitch podcast, I was just going to joke around quite a lot, but we would speak on the business side of stuff. If you come on the ESI like podcasts now, like it's fairly dry, to be honest with you, and it's very business focused and very business heavy. So listeners, they know what they're going to get each time in a sense in terms of topic and tone. Yeah. And if that suits them, then they're going to keep coming back. But if you're changing absolutely everything each episode, like there's no consistency there. I don't know why or what to expect on the next episode, and that actually might put me off, and I'll like allocate my time elsewhere to somewhere where I know I'm probably going to enjoy it.
Yeah. So we've spoken about what makes a good podcast. We'll come on to guests and choosing guests in a minute, but setting up a podcast, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not
so
very
easy.
I'm not very experienced here. I mean, with the stream we've got now, we've got nice layout. We've got a great designer help us. We've got Elliot, our stream producer, Morgan, other people on the team that have had a hand in things and helped me. I tend to just focus on content. I'm not very technical. And if you look at other journalists that have done podcasts in the time, but people like Richard Lewis have said you don't get many journalists that are super technical. I think that might be we're of a certain age demographic, but as you get more people coming through and younger people, this won't be as much of an issue. So you're saying it's easy, is it, Adam? Yeah. Tell me, because I need to know.
Yeah. Well, literally. So if you're doing the video aspect, in a sense, it may not be a podcast, more of like a video series. But if you're also distributing it on podcast platforms, we'll call it a podcast. So focusing on actually distributing it as a podcast and producing it as a podcast, like download OBS or Streamlabs OBS. Like that's simple. Record the conversation. Let's say there's no video aspect, or you've already got the stream assets sorted, because you can get other people to do that for you, or you can just have a split down, like right down the center of the overall stream, and you one side, guess the other. So once you've got that file, once you've recorded it on OBS, I literally click record and then stop recording. I've got that raw video file. Yeah. If I've done the intro and the outro within that recording in a one take, then there's no editing needed. So I've got that video file. I go to YouTube, upload it there, and I go to anchor.fm. Now, Anchor is a podcast platform which was purchased by Spotify either last year or the year before. And it's free, entirely free, hosts it all for you. You don't need to go around and set up your own server or anything like that. I literally upload the video file. It strips the video aspect out of it, uploads it. It goes straight to Spotify. and it's also on Apple, Google. I can't even think of all of them as
so it links to several. So it's kind of like
it goes to
Hootsuite.
10. It goes to 10 at once. It distributes it to all those platforms for you. So I literally get the file, I put it there, and then once it's set up the podcast initially with like a zero, so I upload 0 episodes, like like trailers or teasers, whatever it may be, just so it has something to process, ready for when we do launch. I upload the file to Anchor, and that distributes it to your Stitchers and your Pocket Casts, everywhere except for YouTube, which is obviously a video platform instead of a podcast platform. So I do YouTube as well. I have them uploading simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it does it all for me. You dictate what you want as the image, title, the tags, if it's explicit, not explicit, what episode, what season, all of that. And it's distributed within a minute or two for free.
Great stuff. Well, Pixel Sean TV in the chat has said Buzzsprout is a good alternative as a podcast host, I've found. And thank you for your question, Pixel Sean. We'll try and cover that at the end. I'm just going to try and squeeze through as much content as we can in the next 20 minutes, but I've got your question saved for Adam later on. So, okay, so you've explained a good way of like setting up the podcast, pushing it out to platforms. I guess you want to push it through social media, usual stuff, or maybe Reddit. It might go big on Reddit. How do you go about selecting a guest, Adam? Because that requires, research, doesn't it? Who do you pick? Is it timely? Is it about a certain topic?
I think it depends on the nature of the podcast. If it's somewhat like a timeless thing, like Joe Rogan's, and we'll keep bringing him up because he's the biggest example, I'd suggest. You're not going to him for the latest news, so that's completely fine. He'll just get who he wants. Maybe they're of the moment, like a presidential candidate, something like that, But apart from that, he just gets on who he thinks will be interesting to speak to. That's an amazing way of doing things, right? On my side, different podcasts have different purposes. So one is a more timely version where we keep up with the biggest developments and people who have made moves recently. So we've got Trisha Sagita, the CEO of FlyQuest. We some others as well that I don't want to ruin yet because we're still quite early on in the podcast, but there's some recorded that will go out. But on another one, ESI Focus, that's not timely at all. That's taking a particular topic and really delving into it in blocks of episodes. So we've done apparel. So that one there, things will change in the apparel world, but not too quick. So I think it depends on the nature of things. But if it's timely, then you kind of know your guests anyway, right? You know the people who are making moves and who you need to speak to. And if it's not timely, then you have the delight and the privilege to choose who you think could be interesting to speak, whether just on generally, they're an interesting person, or they're a subject matter expert on X, whatever it is you're interested in. So if it's an esports podcast, which seems apt in this example, then you know the group of people you're picking. And if it's about the weekly news, then you'd pick someone who's had a story released about them in the past week or something, for example. If it's not timely, then you've got a chance to select people, or at least try and reach out to them and get the people you desire. So I think it depends on the approach as to how you select a guest.
Yeah, and now's a good time, isn't it, Adam? With lockdown and everything, more and more people are at home, they're on their screens. I think it's fair to say our workload at British Esports has increased during lockdown, doing more streams because there's more demand for it. It's a good time to start. If you are watching this and thinking of setting up a podcast, have a play around with it. How do casters get into esports? They cast over something and then make a show reel.
Yeah, for sure. There's a phrase that goes something like, the best time to set up a podcast was 10 years ago. The next best time is now. So it's just the sooner you get in, the more established you'll be in a year. If it takes you 3 months to actually pull the trigger, then that's 3 months of progress you could have made that you've missed out on. So, and everyone's fine with you experimenting and working things out as you go along. It's a process, and you're probably not going to get to Joe Rogan levels instantly anyway. So that level of inconsistency is going to be fine, and actually it'll help your listeners to help you carve out exactly what they're looking for in a product and what you can do and provide for them.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I love about the esports community, they tend to be very open and welcoming to people starting new things. It's almost the opposite to established. If you're a massive
it's because
brand.
They're free.
Yeah, and I've been doing my site for a few years now, but someone I haven't heard of might put a tweet out saying, I've just written my first article. It's about whatever, performance coaching in esports. Will tend to get good amount of retweets and likes because people are being supportive of someone trying something new. So
I think that's certainly an element, and also like as long as the content is good, it doesn't tend to matter who it comes from as long as it's not like a diabolical person. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's twofold there, and anyone can make it with the internet. I mean, it is it's an attention war. Like you've just got to capture as much attention as you can and steal it from people while you can. But I mean, everyone has the opportunity to build something, whether it's a podcast or a blog or something, and pop it out there in a moment's notice and make some progress, really.
Yeah, 100%. I know I'm saying definitely and 100% a lot. I'm running out of terms to describe agreeing with you, but it's true. You know, just set up a blog. WordPress. There's a free version of WordPress. There's free versions of I can't remember what that other platform is. Blogger and thing. What was that, Adam?
Medium is
Medium, of course. Medium is a brilliant. I don't even see Medium as a blog. I see it as like a collection of articles from different individuals. It's quite unique, isn't it? Medium is great. Have a go, or even Twitlongers. People would just put out Twitlongers because they want to get something off their chest. Some of them are actually quite good articles. They might not realise what they've written.
If a Twitlonger's good enough for like professional players who get paid $500K a year, then they're probably good enough for aspiring writers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just words, isn't it? It doesn't matter too much the platform to begin with. If you're good enough as a writer or journalist, you will get picked up by
100%.
Some of the bigger sites. You know, it can be hard early on. I guess a lot of it is focused on freelance, and the pay isn't always amazing. But, you know, that's been the case as well. My background going through magazines and things, junior writers don't get much at all. You have to kind of fight for it and make a name for yourself and then get a little bit of luck. You know, if someone makes you another job offer, go back to your other employer and say, so-and-so's offered me this. What can you match or whatever else? You know, that's quite important.
Yeah, knowing your worth is huge. One thing I found on this just quickly is freelancing is... I didn't know my worth when I started out, so I was pitching low just to make sure I'd get the work. But what I found was when I like doubled how much I was like asking for a rate, almost all of them said yes. I was undervaluing myself, so it's always better to go high and get knocked down a bit because you'll still probably be above the threshold you were thinking of initially anyway, rather than going too low and pricing yourself out of something more substantial.
And that this is a saying I've heard from a while ago. I can't remember who I heard it from or where it came from, but it's something like, you know, if you feel like you're getting underpaid, if it's a freelance rate and you're getting a lot of work but not much money, you're probably worth double.
Yeah.
And then if you double it, you'll find that your workload probably halves, and then it evens out, and you're doing less work for more money, but you're obviously still working hard. But that's an important thing to know because journalism isn't not always the best paid area unless you're a top editor. You know, ESPN, Esports, you're the head editor. You'll probably be earning quite well, or you know, you're the head esports writer at a newspaper, or you know, whatever else, head technology writer at the Guardian that also covers games and esports. Yeah, you'll probably be earning quite well. Yeah. But starting out on a news site or whatever, it can be quite hard, right?
It is. But that's why it's important that you enjoy what you're doing. I think if you're entirely driven by money, it's probably not the best way to go about things anyway. But especially not esports journalism at this moment.
Oh, good. And thank you to Codex Caster 8 and Oliver for your questions. I'll come on to them as we tie this up. So last few questions then, Adam. What kind of things should you ask? What are some of your interview techniques? I mean, we covered this off a little bit, didn't we? That my style is I tend to have a conversation, but every journalist is different. I've interviewed Frankie Ward, the esports host, in the past, and she said one of her techniques is charm and disarm. You know, talk about their great achievement that they've done in the past, and then ask them a difficult question with a smile on your face. You know, everyone's different.
I'm not very charming, so I can't get that one away. But I'd say that the main thing I focus on is like asking open-ended questions. So don't just say, "Was it difficult to do this?" Like, because then they can only give you a yes or no answer. Really, it's up to them to go further into it if they want to. Yeah. But if you say, "How did you go about overcoming this difficulty?" for example, then they're forced automatically to expand a bit upon it and not just say yes or no. So I think Making sure you know the right questions. Like typically, if you're interested in a scene or a player, whatever it may be, then you know what you want to ask them, and you know what other fans like yourself want to know. Especially if it's like a post-match interview. There's only so many ways you can go about things like, how did you prepare? What went wrong all right in the game? What are you going to do looking forward to the next game? But like, if it's how you format the questions, that really, in my opinion, or from my experience, is what's gained the best answers. And yeah, I guess having a good rapport with people as well, so they feel comfortable with you, is huge. I think if we weren't friendly, Dom, right now, like I'd probably not be giving you like long answers or like detailed answers. I'd just be saying, oh, it's easy to set up a podcast. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? I want to expand. What you've said is completely spot on. Sometimes, even if you ask an open-ended question, you avoid a yes/no question. Yeah, you're right. If you don't have a good relationship with that person, or you don't know them, or I'll use an example here where apparently these two did have a good relationship with each other, but still the interview was not great. And you can check this interview out. If you Google it, Skara interviewing Pobelter, after I think Pobelter got knocked out of the World's qualifiers in League of Legends, something like this a few years ago. And Skara opens with a perfectly reasonable question, you know, disappointing, you must be disappointed, you've just been knocked out. You were playing well and then this happened. What kind of led to that result, Pobelter? You know, that's open-ended. And he just looks back at Skara and then looks at the camera and goes, dunno. And that's it, because he's not happy. And if you watch that interview, eventually Skara does manage to get a few bits out of him, but he's obviously hurt that he's lost, very disappointed and frustrated.
Yeah, so you maybe lead into that with like some comforting words, or like, I know how much this means to you, but like, you know what I mean, like the way you frame it again.
Yeah,
like if you've got to make them feel comfortable, or like they're able to speak to you honestly, and because obviously, like when you're vulnerable and open about stuff, you're scared of judgment. So if you come across as a confident person, and you're also comforting towards them and understand what they're going through, they're gonna open up more instantly, from my experience.
And that's the exit interview thing. I guess you won't have that as much, Adam, because you're more trade industry focused. But if you're interviewing a player just after they've lost the game, some players just won't do the interview. Some orgs out there won't do interviews at all, or you know, during a big tournament, I might reach out to a team and say, you know, can I have a interview with so and so? I've had ones in the past say, if we win, yes, and then I've had an example where they haven't won, then I didn't hear from them. You know, that happens, and sometimes, like that example I've used, Skara and Pobelter, you can have that good relationship. Sometimes, no matter what you say, it won't feel like a great interview, and that's because you're dealing with people, right? They might be having a bad day, any multitude of factors. You might interview them again in a year's time, and they're completely different because they're in a better mood and they're happier to talk. Exit interviews can be really hard. If you haven't won the game, those are tough, you know.
And that's why I think like leading with empathy again is a big thing there.
Definitely. So last few bits here. How do you think up questions? And do you think about what you'd like that person to answer, or what's the thought process there? Because I've been taught in the past, when you try and get a quote from someone, Dom, think about what an interesting quote from them would be. Yeah. Without coming across as manipulative, because you're not doing that at all, but you're trying to like get the best out of someone, right? You don't want those yes/no answers. You want an interesting answer.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think it's important as to the reasoning behind the questioning, right? So if you're just doing it because you're live at an event, you're on the ground, and you need to ask questions, then that's one thing. But like if there's a big business deal that's gone down, but not everything's very transparent, or like not many things are transparent at all, and you need to work out, or you're trying to work out the terms of the deal, how long it is, like if it's a big deal to the company, what happened to the previous partner, like instantly, like just coming from a place of curiosity, or like trying to see the full picture and realizing where the gaps are. It is one thing I do, especially on like the business side. That's what I can speak on best. I have been to a bunch of COD events and PUBG Mobile events and done interviews with players and stuff there. But on the business side especially, I try to understand the full picture of the deal, because if I'm going to interview them, it has to be for a reason. I'm not doing it just for the sake of it. It's because there's something to be discussed there. I try and find the kind of grey areas and add a bit of colour to them through the interview.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer, Adam. Last few minutes now. This is completely whizzed by. I knew it would. Thanks to Sir Squark.
That's gone very quick.
It has gone really quick. I'll try and whittle through the questions now. If you have a question in the chat, please ask it. I'll do my best to answer. We've got about 3 or so already stored up. Thanks to the mods and the team, Sir Squark, for saving the questions and helping out. I appreciate that. And Sir Squark has said during the Dota 2 International, they did an interview with everyone who went out, as they deserve as much spotlight. But yeah, most interviews seemed very solemn. You know, that's nice, to be fair to all the teams, but it can be a challenge.
I actually think some of the most compelling player interviews are in the moments of despair and defeat. You get to really see behind the persona that they maybe have, or the bravado that they're emitting at that moment prior to a match. To really find out how they feel and how much it means to them. That's how you connect with these players and teams. It's not just through all the highs. The lows are incredibly important too, and that's how you build the storylines and such. Yeah. So if I ran a team, I'd be encouraging, no matter the result, we're having interviews if people want to speak to us.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so these questions I'm on to now. Adam, Pixel Sean TV asked, just came across this channel. I'm a commercial radio presenter in the UK. I love what Twitch is bringing to gaming and esports. I'd love to see what I could do sometime. What do you guys think is the best way to get involved? It's reaching out, isn't it, really? You can email us, or, Adam's a good person to talk to because of connections, but there's just get involved. We've explained through the video, haven't we, how to set up a podcast, and you can set up a Twitch channel, share it on Twitter, and just talk about esports, I guess.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is just discuss things you're interested in, right? Because you're already interested in them and you already have discussion points there. So, and naturally, that's probably the best way to identify an audience that suits you. If it's what you're discussing is an extension of yourself. So yeah, same as everything, just put yourself out there, trial and error. Don't be too proud to fail, because really you're going to learn from that.
100%. And if you're a commercial radio presenter, you'll have loads of experience anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And
you'll be better than me.
And me, yeah. And one thing I find as well is that from traditional broadcasters, traditional media, newspaper journalists, they tend to work, if they're doing something in esports, they tend to work on it behind the scenes and then publish it out. That's kind of like the old school traditional model of journalism. And in esports, I think you'll find that if you reach out to the community and say, I'm doing a radio show on this, you'll probably get a lot of response from people, because
I agree.
They'll give you support. You're doing something on esports which they care about. If you try and do it by yourself without reaching out to the community with little knowledge, you have more chance of saying something or getting something wrong. Embrace the community. That's what I say to people from traditional media.
I'm full agreement there.
So last couple of questions, Adam. Codex Caster 8 has asked, on improving as a writer, without getting the feedback, how do you improve or know that you are practicing and doing the right thing?
That's a good point. I'd say you've been writing for 3 months. If you look at your most recent article against your first article, if no one is around to give you any feedback, after putting in reps, say you've been writing weekly or daily, especially if you've been writing daily, then just naturally you should, in theory, be able to kind of spot, I'd have done that a bit differently. Oh, maybe I could have framed that a bit better. And I mean, I improved a lot by reading and seeing what everyone else was doing. And then, especially if you're paid to write for ESPN, then I know you're doing good work. So if I try and emulate you and then build my own style based off of the kind of tendencies I've discovered from your work, then I know I'm in a better spot than I would be with no experience whatsoever. But yeah, I'd say comparing against my old work, I will not read my old blog that I had in 2016. I will not do it because I would cringe myself to death. The progression is so clear to me, and that's only built through experience and doing. Only built through that.
Yeah, and I'll to add to that, you're right. What Adam said, read as much as you can. There's a lot of people that try and become a writer, and I'll ask them, what do you read? Do you read? No, not really. Well, it's going to be hard to become a writer because it's intrinsically linked with reading. So read, push yourself out your comfort zone. I know we're in lockdown now, but if I was at the barber's at usual time, they'll have all kinds of magazines there. Yeah, I'll pick up Heat magazine, I'll pick up Top Gear magazine, things I'm not usually interested in, just to look at their style of. It's not always journalism, but their style of copy, the writing style and things like that. You'll learn, pick up bits here and there, and then that will add to your repertoire, I guess.
Yeah, everyone looks for like the secret answer, but it's literally just write a lot, read a lot, and be open to the feedback that you get from people. That I can't say any more than that.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're worried about asking for feedback, you don't have to ask someone in the industry. You could ask a close friend, a parent, a relative. Hey, what do you think of this? But bear in mind, if they don't have knowledge of journalism and things, you might get, feedback you're not expecting. But that can be good as well.
Because ultimately, like the readers of the work are just as important as other writers, because they have to consume it.
Exactly. Yeah. So last question we've got here is from Oliver, has asked, I'd love to start a podcast, but none of my friends are particularly interested. How would you go about getting interesting guests on as a beginner? Oh, we spoke about that a bit, but as a beginner, that's its own challenge, right?
Yeah, it depends on the style and what you do, but I'd say the fact that you're interested is good enough reason to start. So don't let other people, your friends and stuff, like stop you from getting going. I myself, if I couldn't get really good guests, I would do it myself for a while just to get comfortable with things and while reaching out to people. And then you've got a proof of concept there saying, look, I've already done 8 episodes. It's come out every single week. Like, growing audience. I'm hoping to get more people on. If you come on, then it'll open the floodgates more, which will then, in turn, in theory, bring more eyeballs on your episode, which will benefit you.
Yeah.
Putting in there, I just let go of the fear of starting and get going, and worry about getting Obama and Dom and other people later on a bit.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks very much. Codex has said really insightful show. Thanks both. Yeah, I appreciate you joining us and watching. And as always, we will put this VOD on our YouTube channel so that hopefully people searching for esports podcasts and journalism advice will see this. So if you're not already following us on YouTube, please do Google British Esports YouTube and take a look. And likewise, Adam, you can follow him on Twitter. Is esportsinsider.com. What's your Twitter, Adam, for everyone?
Across every social media, I am by Adam Fitch.
Perfect. Nice and easy to remember. Thank you, Adam, again for taking your time out during ESI Digital Summer, which is going on now. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Adam? Anything we might have missed, or any last pearls of wisdom?
I would just like to thank you for the platform to discuss things that I'm really interested in, and the fact that you even chose me to discuss in my mind really important topics and potentially insightful topics is a massive compliment to me. Keep doing what you're doing, and same with the British Esports Association. Genuinely a big fan of what you do, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of your followers.
Yeah, you're very welcome, mate. And likewise, it's good following you on Esports Insider, Sam, the rest of the team. If you want to know what's going on in the esports industry, give them a follow because they do produce some excellent content. So I'm feeling the love here. I'm feeling the esports journalism love. It's great to have you on, Adam. And thanks for joining us. I'll hopefully catch you another time. Good luck with the rest of the event. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, stay in touch.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Cheers, Adam. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. I really hope you got a lot out of that. I know I certainly did. I'm always learning as a journalist. Always learning in this field, looking to push myself on. And just a quick update. This Friday we've got another Fun Friday hosted by my esteemed colleague Elliot Bond. So do check that out, 4 p.m. this Friday. I think he might have Fall Guys now, so we'll be jumping on the bandwagon and having some fun there. Next week, I'm hoping we have some things prepared. We can do a special announcement. Look out for it early next week. We've got a very big special guest next Wednesday. I'm going to keep it secret for now, but next Wednesday, 4 p.m. here should be very, very good. Fingers crossed. So thanks again, everyone, for watching, and I'll catch you next time. I'll try to remember to do to raid someone, so I'm going to try and do that now, and then I'll hop off and say bye and thank you to Adam. So thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you soon. Sacco signing out for now.